It's week 8 of the NFL regular season. Drew Brees is back, Patrick Mahomes might be, and wide receivers Mohamed Sanu and Emmanuel Sanders are on the move. One more possible trade candidate, Cam Newton? Rish Bhatnagar joins me on the show this week to discuss all these topics and more. It was a lot of fun to record, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, well, thank you for joining me on the show this week, Rish. NFL Week 8. Interesting storyline to kick it right off. I'm not going to waste any time. Patrick Mahomes was injured in his team's game last week, and there were all the questions around, are the Chiefs going to be okay? Will they still even be in the driver's seat in their division? He's supposed to miss at least 3 to 4 weeks with his dislocated patella, I believe. But just a few days after the fact, Mahomes is already back in practice. Andy Reid has not ruled him out for Sunday. Matt Moore would be the backup quarterback, but there seems to be at least a chance that Mahomes misses no full games at all. So what do you think about this new news coming out of Chiefs practice?
Well, first of all, Connor, thanks for having me.
Yep.
And, well, when it comes to Mahomes, I really think the Chiefs should take a very, very cautious approach. Let's be real, their division is not strong this year. Like, I think the Chargers, along with the Falcons, have been two of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. They're, in my opinion, no longer a threat. And the Broncos just won their first couple games last couple weeks. And the Raiders, while they are 3-3, I don't think anybody really truly believes they're real contenders for that division. I think the Chiefs should definitely take it slow. And yeah, their schedule is really tough. Like, they've got Green Bay this week. I think they've got the
Baltimore the week after, I believe.
They've got Baltimore the week after. So they're going to be tough games. With Matt Moore, you might lose those. But even then, I think...
I'm sorry, the Vikings.
Oh, the Vikings, yeah.
Get my purple teams mixed up, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think even with those teams, I think you can afford to take those couple of losses. I think Mahomes is just that valuable to the organization. And I think we've seen what happens to quarterbacks that have come back a little bit early from injuries. Like Cam Newton, for example, he got injured, came back. He got injured last season after a 6-2 start. He got injured, he came back this season, never looked the same.
Right.
And he's out again. So I think the Chiefs should just take the most cautious approach possible with Mahomes, take those full 3 to 4 weeks off, and bring him back healthy when it comes time for the playoff push.
Yeah, and interesting you bring up Cam Newton because I think we're going to talk about him a little later. But I think the difference for me, at least in part, it does have to come from the division. I think if the Chiefs were in the NFC, really just about any division in the NFC, but specifically a division like the NFC North or the NFC West, there would be a lot more pressure on them to try to get Mahomes back just because, I mean, even with the wild card in the NFC this year is going to be really competitive. So if they drop 2 or 3 games, there's a real chance that the Chiefs at 5-4 or whatever are going to have to really fight for a playoff spot. However, that's not really the case in the AFC, especially in their division specifically. The best team that I think the best team with a chance to knock them off is the Raiders, which again it's kind of unbelievable to say that.
Laughable, actually.
The Chargers won 13 games last season, and they lost 3, and now they've already lost 5 so far this year. And they look like, it's going to take a miracle for them to even be like a 500 team, it feels like. Despite the fact that actually, looking at it now, they've only given up 1 more point than they've scored. So maybe a little unlucky there at the 2-5 record in a lot of close games. I'm pretty sure they've all been 1-score games. But still, it's a much different team than last year and then that we expected them to be. I think... even as a Pat Mahomes fantasy owner, I'm more than comfortable saying give him this week off. I think, we don't really know how exactly his recovery has gone, and maybe it wasn't as serious as originally planned. So we're not, I'm not deadlocked in on this 3 to 4 week timetable, but I don't think it makes much sense to start him this week. I don't know if you want to start him against the Vikings. I'm okay if you want to bench him there too, but it's another week, so he might be good to go by then. But I look at what they did last week without Pat Mahomes. They throw Matt Moore in there. They still beat the Broncos 30-6. Yes, it's the Broncos, but they've still shown an ability to be a strong team without him.
I guess I'm just a little worried about their defense in general because Mahomes masked a lot of the defensive issues And in the past couple of weeks, actually, with the Texans and the Colts, yeah. The Texans and the Colts, they weren't able. He was not even able to mask that. And so I think that that defense is going to be under a lot of scrutiny over the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, trying to figure out how they can handle life without Mahomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Denver Broncos are no incredible offense, and they've even got a little weaker this week by trading away Emmanuel Sanders. But this will be a very difficult couple weeks coming up for the Chiefs. So good on them for stepping up for a game. But moving on against the Packers and the Vikings, especially if they can't find a way to sustain drives, it could be a really long couple weeks, or offensively that is. It could be a really long couple of weeks for the defense, and it will only add to the questions of, do they have a chance to win games when Pat Mahomes isn't fully healthy, throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns a game?
Yeah, I think the offense will be fine. Personally, I think Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, decent offensive line, and LaShawn McCoy are probably good enough to carry that team to get at least 20 points a game.
Yeah.
And Matt Moore is not terrible. Remember a couple years ago, he did get the Dolphins into the playoffs.
He is one of the more quality backup quarterbacks in the league, and at least a guy with experience, which is big.
So, yeah, I'm not sure their offense is going to be too big of a deal, but their defense will definitely be under a lot of pressure to produce here. And I think if they can pull off either the Packers or the Vikings wins, that'd be huge for the Chiefs' confidence moving forward. And that could maybe restore them to status as a true AFC title contender. Because right now, honestly, I don't think anybody believes any team other than the Patriots are coming out of the AFC at this point.
And I do believe that if they are, both these games are at home, so that's an advantage for them. And let's assume they go without Mahomes for these 2 games, which I think he might return against the Vikings. But I think it's safe to say they can talk all they want. I just think they want to add some more mystique to the situation. But I don't think he's going to play against the Packers. I think that'd be pretty irresponsible. But if they were able to go 1-1 in these couple of games with Matt Moore at quarterback, I think even just winning one of them would be very reassuring, right? To get them at 6-3 and a healthy Mahomes, and all of a sudden, the Chiefs still look like the Chiefs. They'll still be in command of the division, most likely, unless the Raiders decide to go on a tear and make things interesting. And I really like their odds. I don't think there's ever been really doubt that the Chiefs weren't going to come out of their division. Obviously now I think the concern is more or less, will they be able to keep a first-round bye position, which if they're only missing Mahomes for a game or 2, I think they're still probably going to be the favorites to do that as well. The other teams in that conversation are really only like the Ravens, the Colts, and the Texans. And if the Chiefs post 11 wins, I think that's going to be a tough mark for any of those other teams to really hit.
Yeah, I think the Texans and the Colts will definitely take wins away from each other, being in the same division. And going back to the AFC West, didn't the Raiders just get blown out by the Packers last week at Oakland? Or was it in?
It was in Green Bay, but it was 42-24. Obviously, this was an unbelievable Rodgers game. Perfect passer rating, over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns.
And while Rodgers is like one of, if not the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, I think giving him a perfect passer rating says something about their defense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aaron Rodgers is going to do that to some teams. Let's not discard what the Raiders have been able to do. Before that game, they had back-to-back wins against the Colts and the Bears. The Colts leading their division at the moment, and the Bears, obviously, struggling as of late, but still, I believe, one of the stronger teams in the league, and a team that still has some hope of making the postseason. So I think the Raiders have been able to do some good things. I think they've definitely been able to do much better than we thought they were going to coming into the season. Interesting game at the Texans this week. And then after that, really actually surprising. Once you get past that Texans game, home against the Lions, home against the Chargers, home against the Bengals, at the Jets. That's a stretch where the Raiders could conceivably win 3 or 4 of those games and make things interesting. But I just don't think they're going to be consistent enough to really challenge the Chiefs.
Yeah, no argument here.
Yeah.
Although, let's be real, Raiders aren't beating my Texans this week.
No, I don't think so. I'm not counting that in the list of games. But I think after that, there's a chance. I'll give them. I mean, yeah. I guess we can give them a loss to the Lions, but give them the Chargers, Bengals, and Jets, or you can swap out that loss. But 3-2, we'll say with loss over the Texans over their next 5, puts the Raiders at 6-5, and then they play the Chiefs. So if the Chiefs are somehow 7-4 at this time, the Raiders are 6-5, we actually have a game for the division between the Raiders and the Chiefs, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and it could conceivably happen because I think the Chiefs are about to lose their next 2. So
this is a really, really, really easy schedule for the Raiders down the road. They have the Chargers twice. They have the Titans, the Jags, the Chiefs, and the Texans are their only remaining opponents above 500 right now.
So you're changing your take on the...
No, I'm not changing my take. I'm saying upon further review, the Raiders could make this more interesting. Maybe they're even a candidate to sneak into the 6th seed. I'm not going to rule them out, right?
6th seed, yeah. I think it's unlikely, personally, because I think whoever doesn't win the division between Texans and the Colts will take the 5th, or will take the 6th seed.
Yeah, and the
Bills are probably going to take the 5th.
Yeah, I agree. That's the most likely scenario. But, if the Texans go 9-7, the Raiders could too,
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
It's possible. All right. So yeah, Pat Mahomes, possibility of him coming back. I think probably not the best idea, and probably not going to happen in the first place. But of course, that's what the the week is for, to kind of drum up these stories and leave us guessing on whether or not they're going to come true or not. Moving on to another quarterback, though, on a title contending team potentially, hopefully for them in the NFC. Drew Brees could be coming back after his finger surgery. He feels pretty confident in his abilities to come back. He had a pretty great quote where he was like, someone asked him, how will Sean Payton know that you're ready to come back or something like that? And he said, because I'll tell him I'm ready and he'll believe me. So he's very confident in himself. He believes he'll come back this week. I think there were a lot of questions when we heard that he was going to miss something around 6 weeks, and it looks like he's going to miss 5 weeks, about his ability to, or the Saints' ability to kind of keep up and stay afloat in that division while he was gone. And Teddy Bridgewater wins 5 games, so they go 5-0 without him, and now all of a sudden the Saints at 6-1 with Drew Brees are probably our favorites right now in the NFC.
I might not go so far as to say the favorites.
Will we say co-favorites with the Packers?
I would say co-favorites with the Packers.
Fair enough.
Seahawks not too far behind, notably.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, before we talk about Drew Brees, I just want to say, I've been a fan of Teddy Bridgewater since his Louisville days, and I think he should have been given another shot in Minnesota, but he's really been proving his worth here with the Saints.
Absolutely.
In the 5-0, what's even more baffling to me is they have wins over the Seahawks and the Cowboys and the Bears.
These are all good teams.
Those are all good teams, and he's getting those wins. He put up 36 points against the Bears defense at Soldier Field.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And 33 at CenturyLink. That's one of the toughest places to play in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And I think Teddy Bridgewater's done a fantastic job. Also, under the radar, the Saints defense also been pretty good. They held the Cowboys to 10 points. Jaguars 6, although Gardner Minshew's not Tom Brady or anything. But,
right.
But the Saints defense has held their own. The Saints defense, they stepped up. Marshawn Lattimore's finally playing like the corner he played 2 years ago, because I think he had a pretty down year last year. And yeah, Drew Brees is coming back right at a time where the Saints are getting a little bit of an easy schedule. Cardinals this week, Falcons next week, Buccaneers the week after. I have to say my Falcons take. I had them actually winning this division. I was very low on the Saints coming into the year, and boy was I wrong.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
What is wrong with these Falcons?
I'm surprised you want to mention that. Yeah,
it's okay. I'm willing to admit the fact that I'm wrong occasionally.
Respect. Occasionally, I like it.
But I think that. Honestly, the Falcons, what?
Yeah, the Falcons have been an absolute mess.
I just don't understand what the problem is.
It looks like this week you're going to be starting Matt Schaub. So, yeah. That's interesting. That'll be an experiment.
Man.
He played good for one drive in garbage time last week, but
Yeah.
expectations not high for Atlanta.
Yeah, so anyway, Saints next 3 games, easy schedule, so work Drew Brees back into the whole game flow, and I think they're going to go 3-0 over the next 3 games. They'll be 8-1 heading into the game against the Panthers, sporting Kyle Allen, which would be very interesting. So yeah, I mean, Drew Brees coming back. Teddy Bridgewater did fantastic in his absence. I think Teddy Bridgewater just signed a contract with the Saints this past offseason, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite. I feel like it's a 1-year deal. I'm not quite sure the details. I'll try to look it up while I'm stalling for time.
I'm sure teams,
but I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he'll have a starting job somewhere somehow next season.
Yeah, I'm sure teams are starting to will probably start exploring potential trade opportunities. The Colts could maybe be there. The Bears maybe. The Jaguars maybe even. If they don't believe in Nick Foles' ability to come back healthy and play at a good level.
Yeah, I mean he's just. It looks like on a 1-year, $1.25 million.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of teams right now that need a quarterback. Titans even. Mariota just got benched for Ryan Tannehill, so that situation is very bad.
Absolutely, and he's got a lot of incentives on his contract, but he's young too, right? He only started for a couple years before he went out with the Vikings. So at this point in time, only 26 years old. He'll turn 27 next month. Still, has basically his whole career ahead of him. He's got plenty of years to start, and he looks like. Again, I don't think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league or anything, but it's not like we expect him to be. But he looks like a solid starting quarterback, and I think there are a ton of teams in this league, especially some of those teams like you were mentioning with the Bears and more that will be able to be very willing to take a chance on this guy, considering he's just won 5 games in a row in the NFL, and that's regardless of what team you're playing for, that is no easy task whatsoever.
What do you think about the comparisons between him and Drew Brees? They do play relatively similar. They're both kind of small guys. They throw a very accurate ball. What do you think about the comparisons?
Well, that brings up another interesting question because Drew Brees is 40 years old. So if I'm the Saints, I don't necessarily know if I want to trade Teddy Bridgewater when, in theory, maybe Drew Brees has one more year after this year, but then Teddy can just be your guy, right?
Yeah, and I actually think one of the great parts about the Saints is that they didn't have to change their offense too much. Teddy Bridgewater has a lot of the same skill sets that Drew Brees does. And Sean Payton, scheme-wise, didn't have to change up too much. And obviously, if he needed to, he would. I think Sean Payton, along with Andy Reid, are 2 of the greatest offensive minds in football. But he didn't really have to, and that's one of the great parts about the Saints right now. And I think the Saints are in a really, really good position moving into I'm presuming they're going to make the postseason, obviously, as the 1
for
2
sure.
seed. Yeah. I personally have the Packers winning the NFC and winning the Super Bowl, but the Saints are definitely number 2 on that list.
Yeah, and preseason I said Chiefs over Saints, so no reason to change it now. But yeah, I'm feeling very happy with where the Saints are. I think if you would have told me that Drew Brees would miss 5.5 out of their first 7 games, and they're 6-1, they're tied for the best. Well, I guess the Niners are still undefeated, so I was going to say tied for the best record in the NFC, but at least tied for the most wins in the NFC, and well ahead in their division. I think you'd be ecstatic with that. So
are you sure you don't want to change that AFC pick though?
I'm
7-0 Patriots.
Do the Patriots look like the best team in the league? Absolutely. That being said, I'm not going to change anything. I'm still a big fan of Mahomes, and I think at the very least they'll be competitive. And I think you'd have to call them the biggest threat to the Patriots. So I still got both of my teams look like top 2 teams in their respective conferences, and I'm cool with that at the moment.
I don't know. I think the Texans could be the second best team in the AFC. I think their offensive line throughout the first 7 games has gotten better every week. Deshaun Watson has now spent 2 of the last 3 weeks without getting sacked once, and I think that has resulted in the offensive explosion that's put them fourth in total offense. More importantly, I think that the Texans are fourth in third down offense and in third down completion rate. And I think that's a really, really important stat come the postseason because the ability to complete those third and shorts, those third and longs, or third and mids, right, are all really important for postseason success, especially when it comes to the Chiefs, right? As we saw, the Texans did a really good job converting on third down and kept Mahomes off the field. And that helped a lot in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Texans are one of these teams. Again, they always seem to be playing in these tight divisional games with the Colts. They have the potential. I'm not sure if I would say to beat the Patriots, although I'm sure they'll play them closer than some other teams. But, I mean, I have no problems with saying I think the Texans will make the playoffs. I think they're definitely one of the better teams in the AFC. I think, it's possible we could see a playoff rematch between them and the Colts. I think that's very possible.
Yeah, I tend not to overreact to the loss to the Colts because the Texans are extremely injured right now. That bye week could not come early enough for us. And also the Colts just came off their bye week. So they're the healthiest they're ever going to be for the rest of the season. And the Texans were not healthy at all. And I wish that... I think that the Texans were expected to lose that game. I think Indianapolis was actually favored going into that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? Yeah.
And I think Frank Reich is a great coach. I think he's very underrated in the NFL. And I think good coaches come off byes very strong. See Belichick, see Andy Reid, right? And I think the loss to the Colts was honestly, to me, pretty expected, especially since it was at the Colts. So I tend not to overreact to those things. I think the Texans will get them back when we play them at home in a couple weeks.
Yeah, looking at this Texans schedule, I think it's really favorable for them. They have games against the Raiders and the Jaguars, which, again, the Raiders might be a little bit of a surprise, but I think 2 games for the Saints, or the Texans, rather, will be safely favored. And then after that, they go into the bye. Then coming out of the bye, they face their toughest stretch of the season. So they'll be, in theory, rested for matches at the Ravens, but then home against the Colts and home against the Patriots. So I think at least their bye is coming in the right time where they can get ready for what will be a very difficult 3 weeks and one that will go, I think, pretty far to determine where exactly they're seated in the playoffs.
And I'm also not going to overreact if we lose against the Colts there, too, because we also have a short week for that. It's a Sunday to a Thursday game.
They will as well. But
yeah, sure.
And if you lose both games to the Colts, I think it's going to be very tough to win to win the division.
Yeah.
But I think, just looking at the Texans, we're at 4-3 right now. Texans will give them wins over the Raiders and the Jags, 6-3. I know you're going to want to give them a win over the Ravens. I'm less sure about it. Let's have them win 1 out of the Ravens and Colts. That puts them at 7-4. Lose to the Patriots 7-5. Beat the Broncos. Beat the Titans. Or actually 2 games against the Titans and a game against the Bucks. So I think they're pretty solidly on a pace for
10-6.
10-6. I'm not gonna give them all 4 of those games because something will go wrong, but I'll give them 3. And 10-6 should be good enough for the Texans for sure.
We do get the Patriots at home. There's a chance.
There's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance for that one.
There's a chance. But I think they're in comfortable position, and I think 10-6 is a little more of a conservative than an ambitious play. I think they could get 11 wins. But yeah, I think they're in very solid shape right now to make the playoffs. So good for them. We were talking a little bit about the Saints. Another team in their division. This is really interesting to me. The Panthers are in basically an identical situation to the Saints. They had their quarterback, Cam Newton, go down after the first 2 weeks. Rather than being 1-1 at that time, the Panthers were 0-2. But coming out of that game, the backup quarterback, Kyle Allen. Thank you. I messed that up on multiple occasions. It's not my fault. We got all these Allens in the league at this point. But yeah, he hasn't lost a game either, right? So the Panthers are keeping pace with the Saints. I believe they're 4-2. And now Cam Newton getting closer to a return. It won't happen this week. But my big question is if you've got a guy with all this injury history and now he's in his 30s and we're not sure about his future, and you have a young guy that's won 4 games in a row, why would you go back to Cam Newton?
Yeah, I agree. This is about the time where most experts, when Cam Newton was drafted, predicted he would start to decline because of his propensity to run the ball a lot. He ran the ball a lot early in his career, and I think that's contributed to his injuries as of late. I know he's not going to win the MVP, but Christian McCaffrey has been a large part of that Panthers' success.
Yeah, and he's even been in the MVP conversation. I don't think he's going to win it either, but for running back to just be in the conversation is very impressive.
Yeah, I think he leads all running backs in scrimmage yards, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't think of anyone who would have him beat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Him and Dalvin Cook probably lead the league in rushing as well. I think Christian McCaffrey and their defense has been phenomenal over the past 5 weeks. I was watching their game against the Texans, and that was just a defensive slugfest. Kyle Allen wasn't moving the ball very well. He threw I think 2 interceptions in that game, and the defense for the Panthers carried them the whole way through. And this was at NRG in Houston, so that was quite a eye opener for me. That to me showed that the Panthers defense has what it takes to carry this team into the playoffs at least. Well, maybe because the NFC is.
That's
so
even the
stacked.
thing. They're at 4-2, but are they even in great shape? Particularly, they're not going to win their division. I'm pretty comfortable saying the Saints are going to win the division. And then you go to the wild cards. They're not even at 4-2. They're not currently in the playoff picture. The wild cards are the 5-2 Seahawks, the 5-2 Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings could lose some more games because that NFC North is
that division's going to
tough.
continue to beat itself up.
The Bears are 3-3 right now.
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
Yeah, the Bears.
So the Bears are even only 1 game behind the Panthers. The Rams are at 4-3, half a game behind the Panthers.
And that team just got a lot better with Jalen Ramsey.
The Eagles are 3-4, and they don't look like a playoff team. But that being said, they still have 3 remaining games against the Giants and the Redskins, so they'll make a run. They play the Bears this week, which is actually no, they don't. They play the Bears in week 9. In a week. So the next 2 games for the Eagles are the Bills and the Bears, and that's make or break time. They actually have kind of a hilarious schedule. They go Bills, Bears, Patriots, Seahawks, which is like stretch of doom, right?
I mean, okay, I think the Bills are vastly overrated.
But if they if they can manage to get it out of that stretch with any hope of making it into the playoffs, December. They have the Dolphins, the Giants twice, the Redskins, and home against the Cowboys. They could go 5-0 in December.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely a possibility. I think the Eagles need to figure out their chemistry issues and get healthy because
absolutely
they're missing a lot of their key pieces in the offense, and Carson Wentz has just not been able to replicate that MVP form from 2 years ago since he got hurt. And no, I do not think Nick Foles is better.
There's a reason why they traded Nick Foles.
Yeah.
By the way, Nick Foles could be ready next week, and then the Jaguars have a question to ask themselves.
Yeah, I mean, a little less of a question. I don't think Gardner Minshew is the future of that organization.
I think no, but at the same time, he's like the most popular guy in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got one of the coolest personalities.
I would start Nick Foles.
Yeah, I would too.
I'm not confident saying the Jaguars will. I'm not sure what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Going back to the Bills though,
yeah, let's talk Bills.
They're 5-1, but their wins are against the Jets, Giants, Bengals, Titans, Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean
that is a terrible schedule.
I think more than any of their wins, I like the fact that they played the Patriots as close as they did. I think that's their best game, and it was a terrible offensive game. But just the fact that they were able to shut down the Patriots and keep that game so close. The Patriots returned a punt they blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown in that game. The Patriots did. And that was a 1-score game, I believe.
I know this sounds a little bit blasphemous, but the Patriots offense hasn't exactly been world-beating lately.
No, I think they're... I don't know where I ranked them in the league, but maybe around 10th. Where their defenses and their special teams are both a clear and away number 1.
Yeah, I mean, after that Pittsburgh game, has there really been any great games by the Patriots offensively? Antonio Brown was on that team, left that team. Josh Gordon was on that team, now left that team via IR. So
the thing with the Patriots is that their defense has just been so overwhelmingly good that they've forced. I'm trying to come up with the exact number. I think it's 21 turnovers through 7 games. So, I mean, they're just getting the ball in incredible position. And, again, they haven't played particularly many strong opponents either.
Maybe that was a little bit different. You tend to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the Bills are better. I mean, it's just difficult to win football games in the NFL. So if you've won 5 games, I give you credit for that. And then, again, they played the Patriots to a 1-score game where the Patriots are, I mean, obviously, they're just blowing everybody out of the water. So, again, it's really tough to know just exactly how good the Bills are, but they're in a position, and again, their schedule is just so easy, like it's just kind of incredible, that I don't see any way that the Bills don't win double-digit games. I feel very good about them getting the 5 seed. And then their 4 seed opponent would be probably the Colts or the Ravens. And I don't think they'd be clear underdogs in either of those games.
Colts or Ravens?
Or Texans. Colts, Texans, or Ravens would be the 4.
I think they'd be underdogs against the Ravens and the Texans, but the Colts could be a little bit up in the air because of how good the Bills' defense is and how Jacoby Brissett is not the greatest.
I think all those games would be pretty close. I would really like to see the Bills play their team like the Ravens, actually. I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But I have a very tough time believing in the Bills right now because I haven't seen them beat a quality team. We're about to find out because, I mean, the Eagles are not.
Yeah. The Eagles are 3-4, but they're not a joke.
Yeah, the Eagles are good. They've got the Cowboys later in the schedule. They've got the Ravens later in the schedule. Do we still consider the Browns decent? I don't know.
I still feel like they have potential to put it together, but as of now, not really.
Yeah, so I mean, they've got the Browns, but I mean, their schedule is so favorable. Like,
yeah, it is.
The Jets and Dolphins are just so.
That's the thing. They have the advantage over every other team that they literally have 4 games over the course of their schedule, just playing the Jets and Dolphins. That it's like virtually impossible to see them lose. Still trying to figure out how the Jets stomped the Cowboys, but.
And I mean, they also play the NFC East, so they also get the Giants and the Redskins.
That's right. They've beaten the Giants. I don't think they've played the Redskins yet.
This week? No, next week.
Next week? Okay. Yeah. So, should be interesting there. Somehow, at the beginning of this, we were talking about Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we got to where we got, but I mean, fun to just bounce around. But
the Panthers should move off Cam Newton. I think he's getting too. He's too injured. I think he's reaching the point where his value is greatly diminishing. I think they should trade him now, get all the assets he's worth. I think they should stick with Kyle Allen for the foreseeable future. I think Kyle Allen has been very good. I think overall he's developed this sense of maturity. He doesn't turn the ball over very much, and that's really all you can ask from a backup quarterback. Also, he's demonstrated good pocket awareness, stuff that young quarterbacks have not typically developed. And I think Kyle Allen could be the future of that organization, especially considering how good the rest of that team is. That offensive line is good. Christian McCaffrey, best running back in the NFL. Their defense is just as good as ever. That team is scary all around Kyle Allen.
Yeah, so let's talk about Cam Newton being traded, because I think that's kind of it's one of the big question marks around the league right now, because we don't have any names of any teams. We've heard vague reports that some teams are interested in Cam Newton. We have also heard vague reports, again, nothing too locked down, that the Panthers are very unlikely to trade Cam Newton. That being said, if you've been following NFL Twitter and stories, all these kind of rumors around the NFL, everybody is practically screaming for the Bears to trade for Cam Newton. Obviously, the Bears have some struggles. I think at this point in time, the prevailing opinion is Mitch Trubisky will not be the guy. even despite the fact that he is much younger than Cam Newton, which I think is kind of an interesting talking point. I think he's 25 versus Cam Newton's 30 now. But do you like this hypothetical move for the Bears to go for Cam Newton?
So I see it both ways a little bit. I see it from the fans' perspective because like the Bears are ready to win now. They've got the defense, they've got the offensive tools, but at this So having, I know I just kind of trashed Cam Newton a bit, but he's still good for 2 to 3 years in my opinion, and I think that we do forget before Cam Newton got hurt, the Panthers were 6-2 and co-favorites to win that division along with the Saints. So we're not talking as if the Cam Newton's lost all his value. And I think that if Cam Newton were to go to the Bears, they would be instant title contenders again. They'd be a very dangerous team.
So if that's the case, I think that probably makes for a good decision.
Yes, and here's why I ultimately believe they shouldn't do it.
Okay.
Because I think the Bears believe in Mitch Trubisky long term, and I think that the team is still the Bears team is in a very unique position because they're both very good and very young. I think the team around Mitch Trubisky is also very young. In addition to their defense is also very young because their best player, Khalil Mack, just got his new contract. He's just entering his second contract. He's still going to be elite for another 5 years. So the real question is, if you move off of Mitch Trubisky now, right, and you get Cam Newton for 2 years.
Yep.
Let's say the NFL playoffs is one game. There's a ton of variance. Let's say you don't win the championship, which is the likely scenario.
I think it's more than likely.
Yeah, it's more than likely, right? Then what you've essentially done is you've made your elite young team without a quarterback. Like they don't have a quarterback anymore after 2 years, in my opinion. Like I think Cam Newton's shelf life is 2 years at this point, and I think that that leaves the Bears in a really bad situation because you can't be a title contender without a quarterback. And so that's why I think you should ultimately stay the course with Mitch Trubisky. I think the jury's still out on him. It's only his third year. And I say we should give him at least till the end of his rookie contract to prove himself. So that'd be 5. And after 5, if he still doesn't pan out, then you have to move off him. And that's when you can consider trading for a potential quarterback in free agency. So that's why I don't think they should. If I'm the Bears right now and I'm Matt Nagy, I don't think I would trade him. Or I don't think I would trade for Cam Newton.
Yeah, part of the question for me is I'm not sure how much they would need to give up to get Cam Newton. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I know the trade talks, but I've read online that the Panthers are rumored to be looking for a first and a second, which seems like kind of a hefty price for me.
They already gave up a lot of their, 3 of their first for Khalil Mack, 2 of their first.
They've given, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the Bears would put themselves in a pretty bad position for the future. And again, it's difficult. Cam Newton, we haven't seen him win a game, as crazy as it sounds, in almost a year at this point. He hasn't won. His last game he won, I believe, was last November. So we're not really sure if he's going to really be able to return to be a winning quarterback at all. I think he still has the potential to. Obviously, he was an MVP only 4 years ago. That's starting to get a little farther in the past than maybe we would like, but I still think he has the talent. The thing with the Bears is that their defense is so good that they don't need Pat Mahomes. I think if they had Kirk Cousins, they'd be a Super Bowl contender, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I think they need a guy a solid starter that has some explosion potential, but they don't need the greatest quarterback in the league. So, would Cam Newton is better than Mitch Trubisky. The thing is, again, with a defense this good, it's like how much longer can you really wait on Mitch Trubisky? Can you spend your entire, what would be your championship window, waiting for him to develop? So it's a difficult situation.
Yeah. Are you sure that the Bears are that much more talented than the Vikings? Especially from I look at their offense, right? I mean, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen is the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. Dalvin Cook has been nothing short of phenomenal this season, and I mean, Tariq Cohen has not been the greatest running back for the Bears. Their receivers are relatively. I mean, Allen Robinson, he's pretty. I mean, he's good. And the offense is talented on the Bears, no doubt. But I mean, are we sure that the Bears are that much more talented than the Vikings?
I think on the defensive side of the ball, yes. I think if you were to swap Mitch Trubisky and Kirk Cousins, I think their offenses would probably be relatively the same.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins has been very good over the past.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Ever since Adam Thielen called him out and the rumors came out about.
Yeah, that was a big turning point for that team.
Kirk Cousins has been like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL since then.
And so certainly the Vikings have better skill players, but I think that's about the gap I would place on Trubisky and Kirk Cousins. I don't know. The thing is, just with both of these, with the Bears also, it's almost maybe the trade isn't worth it just because of how good the division is. Like, they could feasibly trade for Cam Newton, and I think more than likely at this point they might not even make the playoffs, right? Because they'll just be behind the Packers and the Vikings.
Yeah, right now.
So I think there isn't. I guess my overall ruling, as I try to talk through it, is probably no on the trade, because I think they give up too much future assets, and also I don't think it necessarily even gets them any success this year, which I think is what you're ultimately going for.
Yeah, even in his MVP season, he still only completed less than 60% of his passes.
And let's not say that he immediately would be able to come in and have the system and et cetera.
Yeah, and he's a career 59.6 completion percentage, and as he gets older, those legs are not the weapon they used to be. So, are we relying on Cam Newton, the pocket passer, for the next couple of years?
And he seemed pretty weak in the pocket in his recent performances. There's been a lot of passes. And he's missed some gimmies.
Yeah. So I don't know whether or not Cam, as I said, I think his shelf life's good for 2 more years before the legs give out, and we're looking at Cam Newton, the terrible pocket passer.
Yeah, I don't think we're that high on Cam Newton anymore, are we?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's got 2 years left.
Yeah.
He's 2 years is the window here. So any team looking to contend now would get him. But to be fair, I think the teams that are contending already have their quarterback.
That's the thing. I saw other people float the Colts, but I'm like, you would just start Jacoby Brissett. Why would you get Cam Newton?
Yeah. Jacoby Brissett is a better thrower.
I take Jacoby Brissett over Cam Newton right now. I think most people would.
Yeah, the other thing is, he's been starting, and there is something to be said about...
And he's been with that team for 3 years.
Yeah, bringing in a new guy and just benching him again.
Yeah, I think it would wreck the team chemistry
if
they bring in Cam Newton. It's like, what are we doing this for?
Well, Cam Newton behind the best offensive line in football, in my opinion, is quite scary to think about.
I think if they trade for Cam Newton, I think it's just... I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Cam's trade prospects are a lot... So I think we're both in agreement here. Cam's trade prospects are not very high.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't see a team that he conceivably can fit on. We need a title contender, right? Without a quarterback.
Yeah.
Dallas.
Hey, there we go. Here we go.
Dak Prescott's not worth the money.
New England.
New England. Tom Brady's old. He's overrated.
You laugh. Tom Brady's 42. Maybe next year, Cam to New England. It would be interesting.
No, I honestly don't. If Tom Brady forced Jimmy Garoppolo out of New England, no way he'd take Cam Newton coming in.
Fair enough. Okay, let's try to rapid fire some of these stories. So we have Josh Gordon going on IR, and in his place, the Patriots trade for Mohamed Sanu. And it seems like they totally knew that they were going to put Josh Gordon on the IR, because they trade for Sanu, and then 2 days later they're like, oh, by the way, Josh Gordon's out for the season.
Yeah.
So some trickiness by the Patriots.
And not only out for the season, they put him on the soft IR, which means they have to release him when he gets healthy.
Yeah. So he should be done with the Patriots. I don't know what the ruling is going to be on Josh Gordon's time with the Patriots. Pretty up and down. I think he provided good value last year, but he was, it's not the 1,500 yards or whatever he put up for Cleveland in 2013 or whenever that was.
Yeah, I'm definitely sympathetic for Josh Gordon. I think his struggle has definitely hindered his ability to play football at an elite level.
Yeah.
And he finally seemed to get his life together these past couple years as part of the Patriots organization. And injuries just...
Yeah, now the body fails him a little bit.
Yeah, now the body fails him a little bit. And I feel really bad. I've always been rooting for him ever since that 2013 campaign. Yeah. I've always been rooting for him to get out of that. I wanted to see that talent again on the field. And it really kind of stinks that he's leaving the best organization in football.
Yeah,
and his prospects for, getting a team is not going to be very high.
You feel like this is probably the best chance he was going to have to get a big breakout return. Again, only 28, so I'm not saying his career's over by any means. He's got some time to bounce around.
But do you trust Josh Gordon personally in any other organization other than the best organization? Like, the Patriots have managed to straighten out everyone that came their way. Antonio Brown even, right? If it wasn't for the off-field issues, Antonio Brown would still be on that team.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to say. I think I would like to think it's behind him, and that he'll just focus on playing football. I think it's kind of unfortunate that he's missed so much of what would be his prime years.
Yeah, I agree.
You like Sanu for them? You think?
I love Sanu for them. I think the Patriots really needed a really good receiver. I think Sanu's a little bit of a possession receiver, so I think him and Julian Edelman kind of do the same thing. But, Tom Brady's arm is not getting any stronger, and the more you have one of those great guys that can run those 7-8 yard routes and get open consistently, those are the type of routes that Tom Brady will be loving to get. So he has more of it. So I
think that's a good point. I think it fits better than just throw Deshaun Jackson and let him throw.
Yeah, exactly.
Let him go deep. I like that. Giving up a second-round pick for that. And Sanu, great for Sanu. He's on a 1-6 team, and then he's undefeated now.
What is wrong with him?
Hey, look at him. He goes from competing for the number 1 pick in the draft to competing for a Super Bowl. Yeah. So I'm sure Sanu loves it. Another guy loving getting out of his bad situation with his team is Emmanuel Sanders. It wasn't a bad situation, kind of personally, but as far as the team goes, they were struggling 2-5, bouncing around a lot of quarterbacks over the last few years. And Emmanuel Sanders says he feels very relieved to move on to the next stage with the 49ers. Hey, another older wide receiver that now gets sent to an undefeated team.
Yeah, I think Emmanuel Sanders' mark on the Broncos is indelible, considering he won a Super Bowl for them. I think he was better than Demaryius Thomas, definitely this back half.
Over the back half of Demaryius Thomas. Yeah, fair.
And I think that... So the reason he left Pittsburgh in the first place, Pittsburgh let him go because they thought there were some off-field issues and there was some, he was a bad guy for this chemistry. And then he went to Denver and completely changed the narrative on him. He's been nothing short of spectacular in Denver, and I think he's going to be nothing short of spectacular in San Francisco. I also think the 49ers are overrated, but a little less so because I believe in Kyle Shanahan a lot more than I believe in Sean McDermott. Although I think they're both good coaches, when comparing them to the Bills at least. But, the 49ers have won some pretty sketchy games. They beat Pittsburgh when Jimmy Garoppolo was throwing 5 interceptions.
That game,
or 5 turnovers.
That game in particular was pretty rough. But I think
9-0.
I don't think they're overrated anymore. I think maybe going into their week 3 bye after that, their week 4 bye after the Steelers game, I would have agreed with you there. But recently they've allowed just 10 points over their last 3 games. Squashed the Browns, pretty easily beat the Rams, shut down that offense. That's the game Jared Goff threw for 78 yards.
Yeah,
I think the defense is fierce, really right there with teams like the Patriots and the Bills. And I don't think their offense is fantastic, but I think this is a big move for the offense. And again, this is an undefeated team going into week 8. I think they're pretty strong.
Yeah, so we are at the midseason, so who do you have as your top 3 in the NFC then? I'm assuming I know what your 3 teams are, but what's the order?
Yeah, so it's going to be the Saints, it's going to be the Packers, and I guess it has to be the 49ers probably.
Yeah, I would say the same, except that I think the Seahawks are better. Yeah, I mean, I still think the Seahawks are better.
Pulling up my power rankings, which I did yesterday, I have the Saints at 2, the Packers at 3, the 49ers at 4, and then I have the Seahawks at 6.
Yeah. They're all there.
Yeah.
The NFC is going to be exciting.
It's going to be really good.
I think the only thing that's not exciting is the NFC East. Like that division is not looking great, but Dallas is going to make it, and Dallas is going to have a. Dallas has the talent around Dak Prescott to be very good.
I think the Cowboys and the Eagles are both good teams. I think they've each been, had some really bad losses. The Eagles lost to the Falcons. That was the Falcons' only win. The Cowboys lost to the Jets. That's the Jets' only win. The Redskins, I think we knew would suck. The Giants have been really banged up offensively by injuries. Saquon missed 3 or 4 games. Sterling Shepard's missed multiple games. Golden Tate was suspended for the first 4. They've been really banged up.
Did they go 2-2 in Saquon's absence, though, right?
They did.
Yeah. So, Daniel Jones provided a little bit of spark for that team. But yeah, they're far from good, I think, from now. Daniel Jones is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the NFC East, or the top three.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the 49ers.
And I think the 49ers, good trade. I think we're
it's
another one we think is good.
Good trade.
Yeah, Denver, they get a 3rd and a 4th in exchange for a 5th. It's a little value, but I don't know if it's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I think picks are over. I think 3rd and 4th round picks are overrated, and I think Emmanuel Sanders right now is worth more than what you would get in the 3rd round pick.
Yeah, probably.
At wide receiver. I don't think that
the NFL has a weird depreciation kind of idea. Like you can get Antonio Brown for a 3rd round pick. Like you can all
to be fair, though,
he's a different circumstance. But at the same point in time, it's like you have a guy that's maybe even the top receiver in the league, and it's just pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, although I think if Julio Jones were to get traded, I think he'd get traded for a lot more than that.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
I'm less than confident just because we've seen all these trades. It seems like surprising when every big star gets traded.
Yeah, the way I evaluate NFL draft picks is like the player that you're getting in exchange for the pick, like, are they better than what you would get at that pick, right? And I think that in the case of like Emmanuel Sanders and I guess Antonio Brown, if you want to use that example, but I don't think I don't think you would get a player of that caliber from a 3rd round pick. Like on average, I think NFL teams and the fans in general get too enamored with the fact that Tom Brady was a 6th round pick and Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick, and you can find gems in all corners. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick.
Yeah, this is true, but at the same point in time, there's so many. It's so difficult to find a guy that's actually going to have sustained success in the league. That I think once you find one of those guys, you kind of just roll with him.
Yeah, I can look at the Texans, for example. The 3 best players on that team are probably Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and J.J. Watt, presumably, right?
Yeah.
And all 3 of those guys were picked in the top, in the 1st round. DeAndre Hopkins was picked 11th, Deshaun Watson was picked 11th, and J.J. Watt was picked in the top 10 as well. Yeah. So, I think it's pretty clear that the best players you find are the ones earlier in the 1st round. Still, even though there are gems late in the draft. There are examples to prove that.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, I think that draft picks in the NFL are overvalued.
I would agree with that. So week 8 coming up starts tonight. Redskins Vikings, not the best of games.
Oh yeah, great game.
Again, we have the Kirk Cousins playing the Redskins, Adrian Peterson's playing the Vikings. So we have a couple cute little storylines, but should be a blowout. And by the time this goes up, people will already know the result of that game. So not too much to talk about there. But as we look at these games in week 8, only the Cowboys and the Ravens on bye, so most teams in action. I'm not going to lie, this is not one of the most exciting weeks I've seen.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But what's any matchups in particular that are sticking out to you?
Well, I was going to say Green Bay, Kansas City, but that matchup got a lot worse.
Yeah, so that's a big one. Sunday night, it's probably just in terms of team strength, probably the best matchup we have. Packers 6-1 at 5-2 Kansas City.
Browns Patriots, New England's 13-point favorites. I might consider taking the under on that. I think the Browns coming off a bye week. Might get their stuff together.
That's a tough one for me. Patriots at home.
I think Baker Mayfield has regressed, but that defense is still very good, and I have reservations of the Patriots' offense. And I think if Odell Beckham Jr. and
Landry and
Chubb can carry that team, and Baker Mayfield can play a very good game managing style.
We saw the Browns play. Who is it? The Rams, very close. The Rams.
It was very close.
Yeah, that was a close game. I knew they played one of those teams. Yeah, they played. They lost to the Rams by just a touchdown. Lost to the Seahawks by just 4. They've played some good teams close. The Patriots are kind of in a different level, but I think still the possibility to do so. Baker Mayfield, 5 touchdowns, 11 picks on the year. That's disgusting.
Okay. I was high on Baker Mayfield coming into the year. I was too. I thought that he would sort of expand upon that rookie campaign. Safe to say I was wrong, but if you have noticed, they have been playing the good teams pretty close.
Yeah. So
except for the 49ers.
Possibilities there.
They did beat the Ravens 40-25.
That was that. Yeah, we thought they were back after that game.
Yeah. The Rams was only a 7-point loss. The Seahawks was only a 4-point loss.
Yeah. 49ers Panthers, that could be a really good game actually.
49ers Panthers.
That probably realistically is probably the best game of the week if Pat Mahomes isn't playing.
49ers Panthers, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like thrilling, but Raiders Texans will be a good one.
How the mighty have fallen. Chargers Bears. Wish that was better.
Yeah, that could have been a game between 5-1, 6-1 teams, but it's not. Really getting to treat on Monday Night Football with the Dolphins and the Steelers.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's funny. The Steelers are favored by 14 as a 2-win team.
Yeah,
that's how bad.
Their quarterback
That's how bad the Dolphins are. We got
Landry Jones.
What even is the guy's name?
Who's it?
I know the guy. Well, this is slightly embarrassing. I promise I know this guy's name, but he came out of nowhere. FCS school.
Devlin Hodges?
Yes, Devlin Hodges.
There it is.
So he looks actually okay. I don't know if I think they're going to blow out the Dolphins, but from what I've seen of him, somewhat promising.
Yeah, I mean...
Out of Samford.
I mean, it's just very disappointing that the primetime games this week are just not good.
Yeah.
And they're not even projected to be that great. They're I think the Steelers were definitely projected to be better. But in terms of today, the Vikings and the Redskins was still going to be a bad game.
It does. So Mason Rudolph will return for their starter this week.
Okay.
Okay. So Hodges had a game or two, but Mason Rudolph is back and good to go.
Yeah. Any particular lines that you'd be willing to wager?
Yeah.
I think New Orleans 10-point favorites against the Cardinals. I think that could be a potential cover.
I don't love that one just because I see the Cardinals have been a little hot recently. I do try to find something I like.
Buffalo 1.5 favorite.
Buffalo minus 1.5 against the Eagles looks nice to me.
Yeah, that could be a cover.
I think Indianapolis minus 5.5 against the Broncos I would consider. I think Jacksonville minus 6 against the Jets. That's another one that's kind of close.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we got a few there. Again, I don't think anything is jumping out at.
I think 5.5 favorites. 5.5 favorites.
Yeah, particularly
49ers is a little high.
What is this? Falcons Seahawks. Is this showing? Is this not on the? Are you seeing a line for this one?
I'm not seeing a line. Oh yeah, I'm not seeing a line for it either.
Can we try to pull something up on that? Because if that means it's even, then oh my goodness, right?
Yeah.
Let's try to find this, and then we'll close out the show. But yeah, let me know if you...
3.5, Seahawks minus 3.5.
Seahawks minus 3.5 is free money.
Yeah.
That's free money, guys. That's the bet of the week.
To be fair, the Falcons have played their opponents pretty close.
3.5.
I feel like the Falcons are the greatest team. They're the Seahawks, but instead of for the first 3 quarters, we don't know what they do, right? And then the fourth quarter, Matt Ryan turns into Aaron Rodgers, just does insane stuff in the fourth quarter, and then comes back to just barely lose.
Matt Ryan throws about 200 yards per fourth quarter.
Yeah, and then the Seahawks, on the other hand, do play some like 80s style offense for 3 quarters where they just run the ball the majority of the time. Russell Wilson throws like 10 passes. And then the fourth quarter, they're like, okay, we're not winning this game, or we're barely ahead. Russell Wilson, here are the keys. Russell Wilson does amazing things, and they win the game.
Yeah, this could either
That's
be
the only difference between the two.
This could either be a very close game, or I think there's still a possibility the Seahawks just win by like 30.
My gosh, I want to see this. I want to see this game go 3-3. And at the start of the fourth quarter, and then by the end of the fourth quarter, it's like 24-20.
That, also a big possibility, I think.
I don't know. Like these teams are... I think the way that the Seahawks are running their offense is frankly unbelievable. Like
it's bad, dude. It's bad.
Like, you use Russell Wilson.
Exactly. They're underutilizing a guy. I mean, it's in the MVP conversation.
I think he is my MVP right now.
He might be. He might be. I think it opens up a lot with Mahomes getting injured now.
Yeah, I think my top 3 are...
Russell Wilson's one of the front runners for sure.
My top 3 are Russell Wilson 1, Aaron Rodgers 2, Patrick Mahomes 3.
Outside, look at McCaffrey.
Yeah, outside looking at McCaffrey, and I guess Dalvin Cook. I mean, Dalvin Cook's been super good this season.
Yeah. I just... Tough for me to see him maintaining that over 16 games.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good, though. That's about what we got for week 8 of the season. Coming up to that midway point, we'll be there next week. Very exciting to see how, particularly, I think the AFC, maybe not super exciting at the moment, but the NFC is going to be so much fun to watch play out over the course of the rest of the season. The NFC is the NBA's Western Conference, and the AFC is the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
So, should be good to see how things turn out there over the next couple months. Thanks, Rish, for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, first time this year. We'll get you back on.
Yeah, for sure. And I know the Astros are having a tough time, but let's go Stros.
Yeah, go Stros. Hopefully we get things turned around. Let's try not to get swept. The Astros are the better team.
Yeah, they're the highest World Series odds in recent memory.
Yeah.
2.3 to 1. That's crazy.
But obviously not the start we intended for.
Not the start we intended for.
Still in it. That's why we play 7 games. All right. See you guys. Have fun watching all the games from all the sports this week because everything's up and running.
Yep.